up the map veto for you to see
I think
exactly.
we're going to stay here.
Well, we are. But where are they going to go? That's the real question.
At home.
DarkZero will start on defense. Reciprocity will start on attack. Consulate and Clubhouse are out of the mix. And we'll go to Oregon. Now, DarkZero banned Oregon for almost a year and a half's worth of play days until they brought it out at the start of the season just a couple weeks ago in their matchup where they went to Tower twice. You were very critical of that. So we don't have a lot of footage on DarkZero, and they started to play it a fair bit more than we've seen previously. I think a lot of this really goes down to, number one, you have to be more flexible with the map pool. Yeah, you have your 2 insta-bans, but at the end of the day, you have to try to change it up, or you'll have to change it up at some point.
At this point, being sure that you're not going to go to 6 Invitational, you're not going to pull a Rogue or a G2 and hide strats.
Yeah.
At least in this case, it wouldn't make much sense. You gotta end up showing it at some point. Yeah, I know.
Sorry, I just blacked out for a second there from anger. We have the community vote for you. Who do you think is going to win this matchup? Is it going to be the number 1 team, Reciprocity, or is it going to be the number 3 team?
Ooh, look up.
And it's almost 2-1.
A lot of Reciprocity.
You got Reciprocity taking it, so there you have it. Interesting.
After Reciprocity's victory yesterday, I'm not surprised that there's this rise in fan base and confidence in the team.
Right.
Because we're at play day number 7. At this point, if you haven't established yourself, it's going to take a big change to make things work. And Reciprocity made that change before the start of the season, and they proved everybody, and all the doubters wrong, all the haters, as the guys would say. And they're in here, and they're punching way above their weight, at least if you look at their statistics from the previous season. Ladies and gentlemen, though, we are ready to go in Oregon. Be our first map of the evening, Reciprocity and DarkZero. And you mentioned DarkZero played on this very map earlier on in the season, and it was played in number 1, so January 9th, and they played Rise on this very same Oregon map, and there was a problem, that tower play. There was a huge advantage for DarkZero early on. They actually won 5 attacking rounds, and hello, we're back.
Hi there, welcome back to us.
We're going to fill you in with random statistics that might be interesting for like 3 of you. So, DarkZero, all 3 of you. DarkZero won 5 rounds. That's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Rise only won 1 on the defense. So it's 5 attacking rounds. You go into the second half of Oregon, you're like, okay, we just won 5 rounds on the attack. It's all Gucci. We got this game. No problem. And then they proceed to play tower 3 times. And it wasn't too great.
Not great.
And I don't know why they were trying to force it. Maybe they wanted to prove everybody wrong, I guess. But as I mentioned last night, it's been a thing with DarkZero in that every single game they're playing, they're not really running over their opponents, right? They lost 1 to EG. They tied in play number 3 versus Space Station, and everything else is like, okay, well, they won 7-4, they won 7-4, they won 7-5 and 7-4. There's 3 7-4s, 1 7-5.
Yeah, their matches have been really close.
There's always a position
really
where you're like, DarkZero at the helm, at the halfway point, and then suddenly something changes, something messes up during the round, and then it takes a lot of effort to grab the last 2 rounds and put them on the board and take the victory.
Well, I mean, it was. I feel like in interviews we've heard them say like we threw a number of rounds away.
And every single interview.
But that's been 6 games now where you can say that you've thrown rounds away. Every team is going to be throwing rounds away at some point. There's when you look at efficiency of teams, there's always going to be missteps that will cost you a round or 2 here.
Very true.
But DarkZero have played a deceptively high number of rounds, given the fact that they're in 3rd place. And a large part is, as you very wisely pointed out, their games are 7-4, their games are 7-5. Like, these come down to the wire, and their opponents, no matter who they are, they make DarkZero have to work harder than a team that has the resources that DarkZero has necessarily should a lot of times. And I think that's something that will come with time.
Of course.
But overall, I think DarkZero has dramatically improved over last season,
No question.
but there's still a ways to go. And like you said, I think it's very smart to point out that they're not having easy victories. Look at EG, for example, when they were 4-0, I think, or 5-0 heading in here. It's just doing.
I'm trying to not have this fall off of my head.
It's like a pit crew. You have like a headset pit crew. that combine.
Yeah, usually there's like
you
this needle in the middle that I stick in my head.
Mhm.
It kind of
So
puts everything together.
getting back, EG had played the second fewest rounds, and I think they were 4-0 or 5-0, which is very impressive. And the only team that had fewer rounds than them played was was Rise Nation, and that's because Rise Nation were getting blown out in most of their matches. They were losing like 7-2, 7-3, 7-1,
Maybe
etc.
because they shouldn't have played Clubhouse, but yes.
But the argument here is that it's fascinating that DarkZero, who was keeping pretty close step with EG at the time, was also playing a dozen or so more rounds in the same amount of games. And that speaks to the fact that you're winning, but your matches are way too close.
Yes.
And if at any point there's some regression, those 1 to 2 rounds that you drop that you probably shouldn't, they could possibly end up going even worse than that.
And how specifically? Because you play 2 halves in this season, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your position not only depends on the first 3 months, it also depends on what happens after the major patch change. Possibly operator changes here. So, what happens if you go to the other half of the season? You have to play against your opponents again, and you remember that all your matches earlier on were all 7-4s, 7-5s. Well, let's say even if let's say you lose your match, but you lose by only 2 rounds. Well, suddenly now you're tied with them. Even though you had won before, those rounds end up costing you later on in the season. And
Yep.
I know, we're only 7 days. We always say that. It's no problem. You can bring it back. Look, let's be honest. Play day number 7, you're not feeling good about it, and there's problems. You're not able to get rounds consistently on the board. You're going to feel it later on. And this is something that a team like Rise Nation, back then Mouse Sports, and Rogue almost felt the heat.
Yeah.
They're able to bring it back just because of these sorts of things. And I really hope that doesn't happen with DarkZero.
Well, as much as I've enjoyed the speculation, we have a very, very short break for you. We'll be back to start things off with Reciprocity and DarkZero in just a couple minutes. Welcome back, everybody, to our first match of the day: Reciprocity versus DarkZero. We went to a short break there. Hope that you stretched your limbs.
Yeah, welcome back.
Hope that you got some beverages, maybe
Come close. It's gonna be
adult
fun.
beverages, maybe some water to stay hydrated.
It's my favorite beverage.
Water's a great drink.
It is.
Sparkling, still, it doesn't matter.
We
They're
all know.
good.
Let's be honest. We all know what plants crave, though.
What?
Electrolytes.
Mmm.
All those salts. I mean, let's be honest. We're pretty salty, anyways. So.
It does definitely seem like there are some people who consume an inordinate amount of electrolytes.
Yes, indeed.
We'll start the ban process. DarkZero gets first ban on Oregon, need we remind you, and Maverick being the very first ban on Oregon.
It is very important to stay hydrated, especially with those, with some extra salts when you're getting super sweaty in your ranked games. So something to keep in mind. Though that aside, Reciprocity banning Blitz.
Finally, every team seems to be banning Montaigne against DarkZero, and I would not doubt that we might see a Montaigne, but you know how DarkZero is going to play on this map. You know what it's like, hearing that freight train, that German freight train, barreling down on you in the basement of Oregon. You know the way that DarkZero does it. Ban the Blitz.
Maybe for the 3 Germans in chat, they'll know what I mean. German trains are actually usually very late. So when DarkZero actually uses that train on the Blitz there, it is always on time, let's be honest. Pulse is going to get banned here by DarkZero, so nothing out of the ordinary, really. It's going to leave us with Maestro open, though we've seen a lot of Doc actually replacing Maestro. A lot of people are asking, well, Milosh, Intero, why does that happen? Well, random citizen, the big problem is that Maestro can't heal himself, and that's something that Doc can do. And when you're planning to have the Doc fighting, the healing is very important. And I know, it's right there, right? It's right in front of you. But sometimes pure fagging power and being able to pick people up is a bit more important than just pure information.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
But Maestro's going to be played in here.
It actually looked like, and I could be wrong, it actually looked like Nyx's Ella was picked by the timer, not by Nyx himself. Because it popped up right as... For those that are unfamiliar, if you don't pick an operator the moment that the time hits 0, essentially what ends up happening
is...
They're all moonwalking.
Yeah.
Usually what ends up happening...
Billie Jeans.
Usually what ends up happening is... we might have... I'm assuming...
Shimona.
I'm assuming something is horribly wrong here, but if you don't pick an operator by the time that the timer hits 0, it picks one for you.
Yeah.
Good thing that there's a 6 pick there for you to be able to switch off of it. And then he switched to the Maestro. I would imagine that was probably a
plan.
Yeah, that was probably the Maestro was probably planned. But anywho, it's going to be round number 1 getting underway. It's going to be a laundry defense for DarkZero downstairs, starting their first half here. Things do seem to have ironed themselves out for the most part.
Although I would be completely down for a Michael Jackson concert. That's that.
You know he's dead, right?
What?
I hate to be the bearer of bad.
What? How long has it been?
Look at this lineup.
What year is it?
From Reciprocity, by the way. Fox8 was originally on the Glaz and instead is on the Ying now. I think Ying is probably a better choice, though the application of Ying and Glaz will be a little bit different from one another. Obviously, your Glaz will likely just sit on the hatch and try to pin everything down and then maybe go towards the bottom of the stairs, whereas Ying can flash the site, everybody can follow up on it, or the Ying can just vault right in on her own.
Is that a double Mira set up downstairs? Can we have a quick look at that, Marcio? To go, I think Mint is playing in that position. It is. We saw EG doing this exact same thing yesterday on Clubhouse, though, when they were playing on Bedroom and Gym. Though this is very easily counterable, because guess what? There's a Habana.
Yeah, but it does appear that the Habana X Kairos pellets were destroyed. And if that's the case, then that's a bit of wasted utility just because Habana has struggled to be able to get that all opened up.
No, yeah, there you go. They
actually
opened
did
two
get
holes.
It. Never mind, they did get it. It sounded like somebody had either used an impact or shot out the X Kairos.
There was the Maestro camera, the Evil Eye there on the side to try and deal with it. However, the EMP that came in from Laxing was well timed. and it was able to disable the Maestro camera and the Evil Eye, and he couldn't destroy those X-Kairos. Jarvis in the meantime is playing from the back, and Nick's actually moving up on the top floor. Jarvis still sitting and waiting. Of course, he's got that Nitro Cell in hand just in case. I guess just trying to burn any utility. The Candela rush is going to come in. Fox will chuck in an extra one. The Maestro camera is disabled. Perfect play, the EMP in the back, but Fox is actually going to use himself as a deterrent, similar to what we saw Mint actually doing a few weeks ago. He'll find one kill, and Laxing with the second. But Mint will drop Skies. Laxing with one more on a Nyx 4v2 and Diffuser down. Advantage for Reciprocity. Fox, though, however, is to hear the screams there of the Fox on the Ying. Retro will find one more on Pojo Man, eliminating him. No more smokes to be used. All up to Mint in that 3v1. We've seen him do a ton of work, but everybody's laying down, ready for him. He's going to need to lay the law down here. That's a lot of firepower on Reciprocity to deal with him. And with so little time left, he's got only so many options. And Mark, he'll bite, and Mint will go down. Reciprocity off of a wonderful strategic and timing-based attack win out the first round.
It looked as well like Laxing was patrolling the hatch from above and was holding on to Meeting Hall, which is great because you saw for just a brief moment the silhouette, that orange outline of a member of DarkZero coming in for the flank. It looked like it might have been Nyx actually on the Maestro going in through Meeting Hall, but hard to tell. Overall, when you're Reciprocity and you know that you're going to be going for a hatch drop, you know you're going to be going for a plant down at the bottom of the main stairs, well, what do? You can keep somebody on that flank watch. Meeting Hall control is important through the first half of the round, but is integral for a retake. And in order to make it work, you need to ensure that somebody is watching it effectively. Failure to do so leaves your team extremely vulnerable to somebody coming in through the Meeting Hall and taking out 2, possibly 3 members of your team. When the Meeting Hall fell apart, it just was left to poor old Mint down on site as the Mira to hold things together. And yeah, I will be honest with you, very surprised at that dual Mira setup, as you said. I can understand the thought process behind it. Maybe it's worked in scrims for them. Interestingly enough, when we saw the Reciprocity EG game yesterday, if you remember the defense in Garage that Reciprocity did on Clubhouse, they had 3 bodies in Garage with the backwards Mira.
Yeah.
And we were saying this is very interesting. We don't see this all that often. Skies tweeted out later on that that strategy has always worked for them in scrims, and EG just completely bypassed it. And it was the first time, from my understanding, that it didn't end up working out, and I think that's very telling. So that's some insight that we don't really have as to why teams do pull these types of strategies out.
Yeah, and again, they played that same strategy twice to remind everybody, if you didn't watch it, because I know maybe not everybody was able to watch the VOD, that, by the way, has been live for around like 8 hours now on the R6 Esports YouTube channel, so if you'd like to go back and watch the VODs for last night, make sure to do so after this podcast. That's for sure. But yeah, it was a very interesting defense, and it does give you a lot of insight, because I don't think anybody will really ever tell you anything about what happens in scrims, which is, of course, very understandable. These are very private things, and pretty much you'll lose the trust of any team you scrim against if you ever do that. But these small things are always interesting tidbits that not really anybody has access to.
Yeah, the few occasions that, the few occasions where you do get scrim reports, it's fascinating to hear the way that teams are trying things, and the way that people are changing things up. And as casters, it's obviously a unique position for us and a privilege to be able to hear from teams the insight that they have, especially at LAN events, being able to walk around and hearing how the scrims are going prior to group stages at the major events. You got 16 teams. There's an awful lot of teams playing each other that maybe don't get to play all that often, and it's fascinating to watch. But transitioning into round number 2, a laundry defense for DarkZero did not do exactly what it wanted it to do. And instead, DarkZero will opt for another site. They'll go upstairs to the kids' dorms position. The lineup for Reciprocity will be the same. The only significant difference is Fox A off of the Ying back onto the glass that he had shown in round number 1. He's going to play a little bit farther back. He's going to allow Retro to just light up as much of the site as possible with that C7E through the mattress. You can see, ripe for bullet penetration, just sailing over the head of what appears to be Pojo Man, who's prone, not too far off. It's a dangerous position for DarkZero to find themselves in, because Fox, should he have adequate reflexes, be able to cut down on any push off the top of White towards that bomb chassis over to the kids side of things. But he's not going to be there for that long. Hot and Cold pops up, and with the Alda just absolutely mows the glass down, and DarkZero will find their very first kill. Not a wealth of time to work with here for the attackers, though, and Reciprocity might be stalling out as there goes another, once again, next to Hot and Cold.
Sky's now still on the rappel. There has to be a contingency plan here for Reciprocity to try and bring this round back, but you see Pojoman is still alive. They'll spot the SMG-11 on the side, but Skies has to deal with him, and that's what he's going to try to do. Actually, the breaching round will drop the smoke. Is there any information on it? Well, it doesn't matter. Hot and Cold has gotten one more on the mark to strike. Pojoman is finally taken out, but at what cost? 12 seconds on the clock. Things have stalled out for Reciprocity for way too long. What are you trying to save for here? Hot and Cold will find 2 at the end, and Hot and Cold, oh baby, that was absolute annihilation nation with the Elda.
What a very, very powerful gun.
Who would have thought?
Very powerful.
Who would have thought? Creating an LMG that has the ability to put an ACOG on it with 81 rounds in the box magazine with very little recoil and good controllability, with, you know, maybe the slight downside of having a bit of spread when you go full auto ADS, would be a good gun. And some people are just still sad that that tight as a drum hipfire has gone away.
I mean, you know, it's very difficult to win that fight with an Echo. It's very difficult to win that fight with most of the Defender guns. You know, if you're Jaeger, you might be able to walk away with it. Bandit, you might be able to walk away with it. But there's not a lot that has, you know, that much fuel in the tank for you to be able to burn through all of it before you have to possibly reload. So you'll see success very quickly with Maestro. So good job for Hot and Cold. He picks up an ace on that round. That's excellent.
Making sure that you never get to cast
I will never get to cast an ace.
Actually,
you casted that one yet again. And there's another ace.
Unlucky, dude.
You got Retro's ace yesterday. You get Hot and Cold's ace today.
And Michael took like 2 aces away from you as well.
That's fine.
Why were you even play-by-play?
It's a running joke at this point. But off of the singular performance of Hot and Cold to keep the rest of his team in it, there really wasn't much that happened outside of just Hot and pulverizing everybody. So difficult to really break down exactly what happened. It was more that Reciprocity just seemed that their entry, losing the Jackal, losing both your sets of smokes as your first 2 casualties, yeah, that's a problem to find yourself in. The glass falls, and then the Jackal falls shortly thereafter. You're now utility starved. You're left with a Hibana, an Ashe, and a Thatcher. Yeah, you've got fragging power, sure, but your full execute is basically just going to come down to, hey, be able to kill them fast, because you're in a 3v5, you're playing kids' dorms, which is very difficult to execute on unless you have gadgetry at your disposal, which at that point, outside of an EMP, the only thing you have is the hard breach and no coverage at all.
Yeah.
So, we transition now to round number 3, and DarkZero winning dorms. While they could go to tower, probably not the wisest idea. They could go to kitchen. They're going to go back downstairs to laundry. Last time around, really everything fell apart for DarkZero because they failed to hold the double mirror setup that was downstairs next to the closet. And that'll be something to keep an eye on. But pretty hard to do that when DarkZero doesn't have a mirror.
Especially when Ion doesn't play on any of these teams. Skies, though, will enter through the tower. He's got drones and Fox right in front to give him info. Did force the Maestro back, so Hot and Cold will be denied for just a bit here, and Sky's going to peek through the attic, which is not reinforced. It's completely soft. He's playing from below on the bottom stairs. Oh, look at that, a push from the Legion. Jarvis taking a ton of damage here, but he drops the hatch. Tries to save himself, and all those goo mines being detected and taken out by Skies just ASAP. Means that later on in the round, that's not free damage that DarkZero is going to get.
Now, it's interesting to see the way that Reciprocity is going to use Retro here on the Blackbeard. And I say this because typically, the way that we've seen him before was he moves in very close to sight, and he just sits there and waits, and he does not move. He doesn't really lose his fights, but he does to Nyx. Having a Blackbeard with a face shield prone, losing to the UMP of a castle, well, that is pretty fascinating. But Nyx immaculately picks up a second as Foxay pushes on in. And oh no, Skies lighting up Pojoman. Nyx picks up his 3rd kill on the Skies, and this castle just cannot be contained. There's a 4th for Nyx, looking for the final one as Mark drops through the hatch, but it'll be Mint there to grab the very final kill. And DarkZero will pull a rabbit out of a hat, largely based upon these great individualistic performances and a lack of coverage. Now 2 rounds for Reciprocity.
Okay. Kind of surprised there, actually. with the way that DarkZero, well, Reciprocity played it in this way. You mentioned they stalled out. They started off very well, and then with the droning early on in the round, everything was going swimmingly, and then suddenly, well, those drones kind of didn't exist anymore. There's no information on Nyx. Nobody droned in front of the Blackbeard, if you saw. So, in that position, Retro should have won the gunfight, as you so astutely mentioned. However, there was no information, not even info on the guy that was still sitting in the back. I believe it was the smoke that was still trying to fight. Skies opted to drop the hatch and fight him 1v1 right at the doorway, looking into the stock, which is a very ballsy maneuver. He got the kill after spraying 30 rounds to him, fair enough, but at that point, you stalled out so much, wasted so much time, it was very easy for the rest of DarkZero to huddle back and take you out. And look at that. What do I see again? It's a Frost.
A Frost is an interesting pick here and something that DarkZero has used in their repertoire. The one most distinct example was on their match against Evil Geniuses last season on Border. They used a Frost upstairs inside of monitors. A lot of people call it CCTV or security, depending on what region you come from. And essentially, you just put yourself in a position where possibly with a deployable shield from one of the other defenders, or you have a Frost up there by themselves, and you commit and make the attackers commit to either taking out the Frost Trap or taking a fight with you. And the same thing is going to happen with T3 here. At the very top of the tower, Mint has set up those Frost mats. And unless Reciprocity doubles up on their numbers and uses enough of their utility, which if you look on their side of things, they really don't have outside of the frag grenades from the sledge, that Frost might just be able to exist up there for a long period of time, bleed out the clock, and cause a major headache for Reciprocity's advance.
One thing I would like to check, though, Marcio, if it's possible, to take a look at Mint, and he's bringing the bulletproof camera. There you go. Makes a lot of sense in this situation. Of course, if you didn't know, because Frost doesn't really get picked that often, she can field a bulletproof camera. And that is definitely something that you need to think about as a replacement. You get the traps, and because she's such a low pick, because she pretty much never gets played unless it's like Coastline more often, and then sometimes on Border, well, it's a surprise pick, and you have to really drone things out. And this is DarkZero playing into Reciprocity's weakness from the previous round.
This might actually be a free kill here for Skies. Onto the Bandit, a hot and cold, but there's an ADS situated. He must have known that. You're not going to have somebody play an Attic without an ADS, especially when there's a Jaeger on the board, and you see it from Nyx's side of things. Now, as well, Jarvis's various Black Eye cams are situated in positions where it does look like when Reciprocity advances, they'll get caught on camera. And that is obviously important because on tower, you're largely confined to a very small amount of real estate as to where you're defending. It's almost entirely vertical. You don't really have a lot of horizontal presence outside of the attic and maybe meeting hall. So by and large, you need something there. Maybe a yokai drone, maybe the evil eye cams, etc. But you know, it's tough. It's tough for you to be able to hold that horizontal presence. A frag grenade from Skies will sail over towards Nyx. It'll hit the deployable shield, but that's a bit of a mistoss from Skies, which will allow that Jaeger to just sit up at the top. Mind you, he's going to be aided by the fact that there are frost mats. They'll be greeting any attacker's entry.
All right. Can he even find the player in the back? That's the big problem.
There was a drone on him, but it does appear that it's fallen off.
And that's the thing. The Jaeger Nyx can just run around and keep peeking one side or the other. The easiest way to really pick him off in this position is from below, but guess what? You don't have that option. And 20 seconds on the clock, even if he's lost here, he still gets a kill before going down. A big one, and that's finally to turn into a 4v4. Still though, Reciprocity trying to bring it back. Advantage of manpower for DarkZero in a 3v2. This guy's trying to repel up, but he gets taken out. Where's the diffuser? It's still on the top floor. He got taken out early on. And Retro, last man alive, shot down by Hot and Cold. Didn't really matter, no time. The diffuser in, and again, as I said before, DarkZero playing into a Reciprocity. They're like, you know what? You're gonna mess up your drone play. You're not gonna exploit the fact that you have these things that reveal our positions to your teammates. Well, it's gonna be a problem for you then to break us in. And this is the tower hold that DarkZero have been looking for.
The biggest problem with Reciprocity was they didn't know how to pin down the Jaeger, and they didn't know how to commit to the top of tower with the fact that there were frost mats there. And a large part of that falls on Reciprocity's operator lineup.
Exactly.
If you run a Zofia,
Capitao,
if you run a Buck, if you run a Capitao, you find yourself with those three operators alone. in an excellent position to burn out the ADSs, especially with an Ashe on the board, if you could sub out the Ashe. But you basically find yourself in a position where you've got a lot more tools at your disposal. When you're running an IQ on tower, when you're running a Blackbeard, when you're running a Sledge, those operators don't fit all that well, all things considered, for what you need to do to counter DZ's setup. So part of it falls on the shoulders of Reciprocity to have a more robust and flexible lineup, while another part of it needs to be praised for the way that DZ played that out. Because DZ's lineup was picture perfect, knowing that Reciprocity does tend to skew more towards fragging style lineups than utility overloads, as we've seen from other teams. Additionally, if you're kamikazing into tower to try and take a fight against the Jaeger of Nyx playing upstairs, Laxing was there for the refrag, perfect, but there was nobody to repel in and fetch that diffuser. And when there's 6 seconds to go, and both Skies and Retro are on the bottom floor outside of the tower, the ability to rappel up, grab the diffuser, and then finesse your way into a position to plant it with 2 members of DZ watching you, it's a very, very tall prospect and a very tall task to be able to do. It didn't really work out. So credit to Reciprocity for, or credit to DarkZero rather, for the way that they held off Reciprocity there. But more so, I think a lot of that falls onto the shoulders of Rec for not having a good lineup to be able to deal with what DZ had.
100%, and this is why I believe we see the change into the Zofia for Skies. Definitely something that they've needed. Again, you mentioned Zofia, you said Bud, you said Capital as well. All 3 operators that will help a ton. And what? Guess what? Pin down opponents, and that's what you want. And on pretty much every site, there's something that those operators will do. Specifically on here as well, you can pin down players in the kids' dorms. You know, you can use Retro Shield to your advantage as well. But before you do that, you still need information on any players in the back. And this is going to be utility 2 Gizmots actually used up by Skies. There's nobody in there, and I'm not sure if he used them to detect anyone or something, but seems like a bit of an odd usage there with all of that utility being expended with nothing on the other side.
I thought Pojo was up there, but he rotated out the moment he heard the windows break because the one Gizmot concussion did go off proximity-based, which means that it did find a target that was in there. But this is very dangerous for Pojo, as we said. He's repelled on the window, he's in a position where he can possibly get flushed out, but even with all that utility being used against him, it's not going to be able to do all that much. Retro has Jarvis on surveillance inside a small tower. Jarvis is trying to fish out that Valkyrie camera that he positioned, knowing that there's likely going to be nobody heading over in that direction. But a repel in, and a haphazard one at that, will be mint underneath the window. And kids, excellent play for DarkZero to pick up their 2nd kill. You've lost your Ying, and now as well, you lost Laxing earlier on for the EMPs. And the EMPs being off the board means it's crucial for Nyx's goo mines, Jarvis's cameras that could be disabled, as well as disabling the Evil Eyes of Houghton and then the mute jammers. But Skies is in sight. He doesn't hold the diffuser. He's going to need to grab it, getting harassed from this Evil Eye cam, and I don't think he knows where it is. Finally picking up the diffuser, but he knew he would put himself in harm's way, and mint from beneath, a great job. Jarvis sends up a C4, and Retro will be there to receive the package loud and clear. Same day delivery, some would say. And that is going to be a 5-1 with Mark trying to get into the site. Hot and Cold is there to greet him at the end of the hallway, and a flawless round from DarkZero. They haven't played a lot of Oregon here, Gassan, but they're doing mighty fine today. They've put 4 together.
Yeah, and again, this time, I will not only put it on DarkZero's excellent play, but on Reciprocity. They scouted things out. They saw that there was reinforcements in kitchen, even if there was a mute jammer that blocked their drone from going into kitchen and finding out if there is actually someone in there. Your first reaction should be, we will come in, we will clear kitchen, and from then on, we can actually attack. This is a very common strategy, and I'm surprised that it worked as effectively as it did. Again, 5 players alive with barely any damage done to DarkZero. Only 1 player had taken like 10 damage in that exchange. That should not happen. And Reciprocity, in clear contrast to what we saw them behave, or how we saw them behaving last night when they were playing EG, they just don't seem to be comfortable at all in this matchup. But it's not like DarkZero are pulling, you know, some sort of rabbit out of their hats. They're playing strategies that are very sound and normal, and nothing really special about them. And even against those, Reciprocity are kind of struggling. Now, it can be that Reciprocity are not really prepared for attacking. But then you look at that very first round and you're like, they probably were. Then what's going on? Where's the drones? Where's the communication? How did it break down? I'm not sure, and I really hope we get to talk to them at least at some point to see what's going on, because I'm sick and tired of the whole we're saving strats kind of thing.
Nobody's, okay, I think this conversation really just needs to get put to rest.
Basically.
Every single team that is going into the invitationals are saving things specifically to pull out at big events. But this is not an invitational specific thing.
Exactly.
Every team that has to go to a LAN event will have pocket strats and will have specific things that they save up that they can then turn around and use in big moments that you're not prepared for. But the idea that teams are throwing games away because they don't want to reveal things, it's nonsense.
Yes.
So if you're one of those people, please.
Stop.
Stop.
Find help.
Anywho. I mean, I think it's reasonable, but like I said, there are times when teams don't drone effectively. There are times when teams just simply don't check their corners. And sloppiness and bad entry and lack of coordination, that's not a strategy, that's a fundamental.
Exactly. Those are 4 rounds as well lost on fundamentals alone. It's not something that Reciprocity should be doing, considering the fact of how they played last night.
I honestly just think a big part of it, too, is that DarkZero has done their homework on Reciprocity and knows the lineups that Reciprocity plays on Oregon. You know, you can go as far back as when Skies was on Obey and the way that Cloud9 played it as well. Reciprocity's lineup for all these players tend to be more take fights than flush people out and force them to take fights. The problem with that is DarkZero's setup is designed to counter that. And speaking of countering, 2 sites from Reciprocity. So close here. As Skies is going to walk on into Kitchen, and he takes down Mint. Doesn't confirm the kill. There we go. He'll rodeo around to the corner and be able to finish him off. It's a Nitro cell off the board, and a big one at that, knowing that the site is downstairs on Laundry. But the bigger issue, that clock. We are just shy of a minute to go. And other than taking out Amira, Reciprocity have not been able to translate over to the site. Finally, we are seeing it, though, as Reciprocity works down towards the stairs and heads in towards the Laundry site. This double Mira setup, still there. Looks like one of them's been shot out, exact same as before, and that should clear the way for Reciprocity to be able to wrestle control of that site. And they're going to need to make it fast. 45 seconds.
Yeah, the second Mira, no, actually, it's only one in this situation. All right, fair enough. Before, it was shot out by the defenders, just to highlight it. But Maestro is going to get dropped and picked up, but Nyx is going to find a kill before getting dropped by Skies. And then Retro with one more on Pojo Man. Unfortunate there for the defenders, but Retro will find the last one on Jarvis. Foxa even playing the outside, watching for rotations from that tower. And it's very understandable. That was a good reaction. Like, you know what? They're going to play back a meeting. They're going to try to rotate down from the tower stairs. We're going to put Fox in there to hold down rotations. And that's smart. That's how Reciprocity should have been playing.
I really wonder who was tasked to cover Mint inside of Kitchen, because it looked like it might have been Nyx, the castle, but he was barricaded in and did not have any knowledge of where Reciprocity was coming from. We saw both Retro and Skies right next to Mint for quite a period of time. The moment that first Guzmat went off onto Mint, you'd suspect that Nyx should have been able to push up to try to cover that angle, but he didn't. And I don't know if that was a deliberate move by DarkZero or not. Anywho, that more pugilist, fragger-style lineup that Reciprocity brings has worked very well on both of the Laundry defenses downstairs, in which Reciprocity won. And a big part of that is because attacking Laundry supply room, you can get away with it without using a ton of utility. You don't really need a buck because there's not a lot of soft destruction that you need to do. You really need 1 set of smokes, max. You can get away with 2, obviously, but 1 set of smokes, cut off the mirror window, possibly cut off the supply closet, or you can cut off the main hallway, and then you have somebody watch the hatch. As long as you ensure that nobody's coming after you from meeting hall, and that you've got somebody clearing out that second floor so there's going to be no belated roams, you're in full control. Especially given that mirror setup that we saw from DarkZero. And furthermore, Nyx's play inside a meeting, he'd castled off the main double doors, which meant that his ability to get out of meeting hall and be able to take a fight would be clearly audible, and the people on Reciprocity would hear that, and the team would be able to deal with it as it happened. So, more missteps from DarkZero on that round than we've seen previously, and Reciprocity just read into the setup perfectly, kept somebody inside of meeting hall. As you saw, the one wall in meeting hall next to the double doors was opened up, but it didn't look like there was a clear avenue to get out for Nyx, and that's where the Jackal was situated, also by the hatch, doing double duty. there was just so much coverage for Reciprocity with DarkZero not having anywhere near enough guns to take them in fight.
And that's the problem. The hallway wall is the one that you just see reinforced with a battery on top of it. Because that was open, it did not allow the castle to support the Jaeger that is playing inside of kitchen, even though there was a rotation that was clearly formed in kitchen for that exact thing to happen. But I'm interested to see how DarkZero attempt this. As usually been seeing Mint running a lot of shield operators in general. Remind you, the Blitz, is banned out in this situation, so none of that. We're bringing the Dokkaebi. So extra smokes to combo with hot and cold for a final pressure on the site for a plant. Makes a lot of sense when you have to deal with, you know, technically 3 lines of sight, one by the laundry machine, basically by the stock for it. Then you have your small cubby to play in, where usually you'll see that mirror window, and also one on the side in the hallway. So
this opening that was created there by Pojo is actually going to inadvertently help Retro's play on the back of tower. You've got the Maestro with the ACOG all the way back, waiting so patiently. He's going to be able to cover a number of angles with that. And of course, having that strong weapon with an ACOG will allow you to be able to take a fight at ranges that a lot of other operators couldn't or wouldn't really dare because, well, that gun just absolutely punishes you. But there's also 2 bodies from Reciprocity off-site that could end up being a major problem. Laxing and Retro are far away. Laxing, playing up an attic, he can drop at any point, but it's going to be tough because the execute for DarkZero is going down. You've got 4 smokes on the board. 2 of them are going to go, and there will be a track here from the Jackal of Hot and Cold. This is going to be particularly precarious now for Reciprocity to be able to recover. Barring a beautiful Nitro Cell or a great smoke, this could be DZ in the driver's seat.
Dropping the first smoke from Hot and Cold is to bait out a smoke from, well, guess what? The smoke of Fox playing in the back with the mirror window. And now this should be time to go for the actual assault. EMP gets thrown in as well. Disable any Maestro cameras that are set up close, and Hot and Cold will progress through the hallway to find one kill on Skies. Fox, though, will connect and take down Pochaman with the help of... Oh, no! He turns around and Laxing will get dropped. Unsure of Hot and Cold's position, but Fox will refrag to make it. Advantage for Reciprocity, 1 man up. Jarvis has to go for the plant. He goes in for the diffuser. 2 seconds left on the clock. He'll go for it, but he's being harassed by the Maestro and no time left on the clock. Defense of Reciprocity will manage to win out Laundry, something that DarkZero was not able to do on their defense.
Skies and Fox, they played that beautifully. Not just with the smoke play, but also being able to track the diffuse going down amidst the smoke that was onto the Dokkaebi. Just ultimately, DarkZero, a victim of time and a victim of circumstance. They didn't have information on where Retro was. They didn't have information on where Laxing was. When they finally did, it was too late, and you just committed your resources in the wrong places. And because of that, you have to try to pull off an execute, very similar to the way that Bank CCTV works downstairs, the bottom site. You need to bait out a lot of things when you're attacking Laundry Supply Room, unless you can try and pin them down. Reciprocity pinned down DarkZero on their attacks. Every time Reciprocity attacked, DarkZero would seem almost paralyzed. But that wasn't the case here. And honestly, when you had Hot and Cold drop with the Jackal, it looked like he was going to be in a commanding position. He did pick up 2 very important kills, but that would be it for the team. And that's because he barreled into sight, and there was minimal coverage from Reciprocity to see him. And by the time the calls came out, 2 members of Reciprocity were down, and you left Mark to have to scramble back in and eliminate Hot and Cold. But your smokes were placed in positions where it was very easy for counter smokes to happen from Reciprocity. It made it very easy for a Nitro Cell to hit, and the logic bombs came a tiny bit too early, all things considered. You're going to use a logic bomb to try to keep people at bay, but then there's a smoke grenade that goes down immediately at the bottom of the main stairs. You've timed it poorly, because by the time that smoke dissipates, most of the defenders have been able to shut that device off. They're back in a position where they can fight. There's no audio cue to know where they are, and they're not just going to be sitting still waiting for you, because they're going to be trying to close that phone or turn that phone off. So just a bit of a misplay there for timing on DZ. It looked like a little bit of impatience almost, because they let that clock bleed early through the first half of the round. I would imagine we're going to see probably a swifter take for DZ, or at least an attempt for a swifter take. We won't be going down to dorms for a number, or to Laundry for a number of rounds, and we'll be at dorms this time around, obviously, because Reciprocity won the bottom floor site.
All right, now what does DarkZero spot? Well, they spot a reinforced wall in the attic, which means, well, your easy entry is not going to be so easy, and you're not really have enough utility to go through that. It's going to funnel you in. That sort of attack is going to be ruled out. But how do they adapt to this? Mint just checking around, nobody found, as of course there is no one to find. Nobody playing in the attic. You can move in from the meeting hall, and now maybe the push from DarkZero will come in. You initially have that, how would you say, the beachhead from meeting hall to try and assault in, but so far just trying to break open those castle barricades that have been set up by Foxay. And Hot and Cold awaiting any information. Now, the droning from DarkZero has revealed that, hey, there's nobody playing kitchen like we were. They're going to set up mostly an armory. And so the attack is going to come in from a different vector. Meantime, Jarvis just on the outside, destroying any utility. Of course, oh no, oh, he misses the castle as he goes for the EMP throw. And Fox is saved. Just a hair. Fire Jarvis's Thatcher. All right. He'll rotate down, try to play in the hallway. Possibly for late game retakes. If the attack will come in from DarkZero, but so far they're just kind of calm, content to continue on with droning. Laxing set up for a run out. He will maneuver himself back into the garage. Funny Ash in the meeting hall, and that's Nyx watching, but he's more focused on the kitchen, where now you see the smoke setting himself up.
It's a tough spot for Retro to find himself in, especially with these Jackal tracks. He's called for reinforcements, that's where Laxing is, and Nyx just seems to be able to evade him, but Retro wins the fight on his own. Doesn't even need Laxing there. Gabe does look for a second kill, or for a second kill for his team, but Pojo has the back alley and the back line of sight over towards tower. Retro looking for another, he'll pick it up. Pojo runs in, ill-advised, and still from below. Retro doing so much work. Jarvis holding the window, is able to cut down Skies. The mute just looks the wrong way. A C4 tosses on over, and Mark's position will be given away. Hot and Cold has Jarvis's cover as DZ gets the diffuser down. Foxay inside a small tower, looking to try to drop either Mint or Jarvis, both very low on HP, and ripe for the UMP to be able to do good work. But Foxay's run out, a brilliant attempt, but ultimately in vain, as DarkZero has more than enough guns to watch that. Retro will now need to do his own run out, and oh man, that's 3 for Retro as Mint falls. And the smoke, very low on HP, will need to try to salvage this round. But look at the diffuser. By the time Retro gets up to disable the diffuser, whether there's anybody else alive or not, he's just simply going to be out of time. And these will be impactless kills, trying to pad his stats. He had an ace yesterday. He's got 3 kills so far, but there will be an impasse, and he'll just sit at the armory doorway. That'll be it. Retro knows that there's no point in him trying to pressure the site, as there are 2 guns from DZ watching, holding these tight angles. 5 rounds for DarkZero in their first successful attack.
That was all Reciprocity's round early on, and then DarkZero just kind of took it away from them. The fact that DarkZero realized when they had that window of opportunity to literally dive into the main window and go into the site was very impressive indeed, but Reciprocity were not able to rotate players up as they were already busy in meeting hall in the kitchen. You saw the smoke surviving at the end. Why? Because of playing solo there. And as an attacker, all you need to do is put 1 player on flank watch later on in the round. That was Pojo Man's job in the Havana. Very well done here by DarkZero to be able to position their players in correct spots, basically. You have to imagine this as being sort of a chessboard. You need to know at which point do you have to have this peon in this position and this one in another one. And in this case, the rotations were cut off wonderfully by Pojo Man. And at the end, 1 player alone, there's not much that he can do.
It was also a correct read from DarkZero to see that you have Retro playing in kitchen downstairs, you've got Laxing downstairs playing in meeting hall, you've got Mark playing at the top of white, you've got Skies playing over in generator. So the only person that is really in any position to stop a main window or the double window push is Foxay. And if you can pick off Foxay early, then that basically opens up the whole site, and you can control it from that big double window. That's what DZ did. They dispatched 2 bodies below to try to take out Retro. While Retro and Laxing were fighting below, you saw the Mira trying to cover Kid Storms after Foxay fell. Skies got caught as well. And what ends up happening? Everything falls to pieces for Reciprocity because they don't have the coverage on that main window. DarkZero saw that, they read into the play, they organized appropriately. They used their utility to essentially split the site in half, keep Mark at bay. Skies gets picked off as he goes to rotate out of generator, gets caught looking, and then the site was theirs. Diffuser goes down quite successfully, and at that point, retaking Kid Storms is one of the toughest things to do in this entire game, and that was the position that Reciprocity found themselves in.
Defending that site specifically from a plant is much easier than retaking it. But that's the thing for the attacker. It's just difficult to get into the site. But once you're in and you're able to plant, your possibility of victory just soars.
Oh, absolutely. Even if it's a 2v4 and you have control of that site.
Yeah, you're done.
If your attackers or the defenders, if it's a retake, are utility starved, think about it. Most of the ways in involve the narrow doorway that leads from the armory hallway. You're going to repel into kids' windows, and you're always vulnerable while repelling. Oh my, Nyx is going to just absolutely obliterate Skies.
Okay.
Downstairs, the mute gets caught. Nyx doesn't even lose a single HP in that encounter. That is a beautiful trade, or not even a trade. That's a beautiful deal, rather, for DarkZero. And, I mean, you've still got lots of nitro cells on the board for Reciprocity on Dorms. That's important. But losing the mute who was playing below, Skies likes to do those loose roams, play at a close angle on the stairs, maybe come up towards Armory side. Now that mute does have that SMG-11, it's going to be a problem for Reciprocity.
Yeah. I have to commend the fact that, plays up in the bedroom, where we're seeing a lot of C4 play. It's not as easy as it will be if you had a pulse. And remind you that the pulse is banned in this situation. You'll have to rely on preset murder holes that the Retro in this case has set up. And we saw even Pojaman on DarkZero's defense. He's able to set up, and no, he dives right into Nyx. Again, no reinforcement. And nobody playing in meeting hall. That was Skies' job there to support Retro, but unfortunately, they're going to dive right into one another, and there'll be 2 kills now for the Ash of Nyx, though. There is Laxing here trying to cut him off, and also an extra player in the kitchen. They'll spray to the side, and Fox, with the help of his teammate in the Jaeger, will find the kill. Smoke will come in. That'll disrupt them as Hot and Cold dives into the site, takes down the camera. Now they have site control at 4v3. Still spraying in the Jaeger. Fox finds it. Oh, what a shot. Takes down Pojaman. Jarvis with one more on the mark. 2v3. C4 trying to be found here, but there's no information as the diffuser will be set. C4 from the side of Fox, and nobody on the other side to respond. Laxing and so little HP. Oh, hello. No, Mitt will dive in and find the kill on Fox. Unfortunate there. Not sly enough, as they say. Laxing still in the hallway, still on his lonesome. And this is what we talk about when it's the retake. Your only 2 avenues is White Stairs and the hallway. And you don't even have to peek them if you're DarkZero. You just hold the ankles on.
Wonderful nod there to another Ubisoft game with the DarkZero reference.
I actually haven't played it yet.
I haven't played it either. But anywho, I do catch the reference.
Yes.
Second round in a row, DarkZero's execute. Good. Very strong. They read into, yet again, the fact that there's too many bodies playing downstairs. You had the mute playing downstairs, gets caught out. You have the Valkyrie playing downstairs. You've got your nitro cells in positions where you can disrupt the plant and catch them, but that relies a lot, number 1, on the information being available, and number 2, no pressure from the attackers on that main floor. DarkZero realized, after you get that opening kill on Disguise, you can permanently take one of the attackers and have them stay downstairs. Possibly put pressure on the Valkyrie inside of the kitchen. Possibly put pressure on a retake position. There are so many ways that you can use that one extra operator that you now have being in a 5v4 to try to hurt that vertical play that's going to come from DarkZero or from Reciprocity to try and thwart DarkZero. And now Reciprocity, who do not have a loss in this season, are sitting against match point in what might be the worst match that DarkZero has put in or that Reciprocity has put in so far. And this might be one of the fastest for DarkZero as well, given that it is a 6-3.
Yep.
We were a little bit critical of DarkZero heading into this matchup with how they tend to take till the very last round or 2 to be able to win matches. Well, we've been doing a much faster pace this time around. Because you went to dorms twice, and Reciprocity have not won a site since Laundry in round number 7, the site is open again. And I think it's a no-brainer for Reciprocity to go down there. It's the only site that you've won. You tried dorms twice. You're a bit too static on your first floor play. You had Skies a bit too loose on the roam. I don't know if he was trying to rotate and got caught very early in the round, so we didn't get to see his perspective. But when you look at this round in particular, downstairs to Laundry, Reciprocity just needs to hold on. DarkZero took way too long to be able to get their ducks in a row last time. Ended up hurting them. And then trying to deal with all the nitro cells. The Evil Eyes and the smokes, you needed a lot more than the 30 seconds that DZ had at the very end of that round.
Now we'll see if we end up hailing a new king. I guess, at the end of this matchup. As for now, Reciprocity, mentioned earlier on, they are #1 on the board. They also have 1 tie. So still possible for Reciprocity to tie things up here, but if DarkZero were able to squeeze a victory, well, it means that they are now #1. But still have 1 more round to go, and this is where, in the past, especially on Oregon, it's kind of taken them a bit longer to clean things up. Nyx will walk on up and destroy those bandit batteries. This should allow here Pojoman to get an extra angle to lock into meeting.
And a pretty decent set of time that's been used here. Reciprocity is, or rather DarkZero, I don't know why I keep messing up the team names. I think that's because Reciprocity is orange and DarkZero is like a purple-blue.
I can see it.
And I just keep looking at the colors at the top and I'm going off of that. DarkZero here at least setting a faster pace, using their utility appropriately. But you got to realize, you've still got 3 toxic canisters from Fox A who did double duty last time around. You still got an Evil Eye to take care of. Nyx is going to be able to free up one of those Evil Eyes. Both Logic Bombs and Smokes are available for Mint. You've also got Hot and Cold with 2 sets of Smokes too. So this is prime position for DarkZero to be able to use their utility to their advantage. The problem is that now they're starting to get into the danger zone. There's 1 minute to go. First set of Logic Bombs go off, Toxic Canister goes out, you're going to see a Smoke Grenade get tossed down. Fox A here will throw out an Impact Nade. He'll down Pojo, looking for a second, and he'll be able to clean him up. Excellent play from Fox A. Second set of Logic Bombs will go off, but the timer is ticking down. Mint, amidst a cloud of gas, will somehow manage to be able to endure, having to wait off a Nitro Cell, but there you have it. Mark and Fox A double up, and they cannot shake the smoke, playing inside of that small closet. Nyx takes out Laxing, but 20 seconds, and DZ realizes you've got to go for frags at this point. The diffuser is in position, aka no man's land. Sky's peeking around the corner with Nyx and Jarvis, both ending up in his crosshairs, and Reciprocity will hold on at least for another round, drawing ever closer to that tie that you know Reciprocity will want. Real question, DZ, can they close it out in the home stretch? They're going to sit on match point for the next 2 rounds, and Reciprocity have to go to a site that they haven't won yet, now that Laundry is yet again locked.
Very true. And just to highlight, in that round, Reciprocity still had line of sight through the smoke. They had the utility, if I'm not mistaken, to see through it. So they're able to feed information to Fox, who timed his Pokeballs pretty nicely. And the thing is, not a lot of people will actually run a smoke in that situation with impact grenades, because you don't really need them. You're not going to use it to impact trick or anything like that, right? Well, in that situation, it was mostly used for aggressive play, because you know, hey, they're going to plant in somewhere where you can use the splash damage to your advantage. It was well played by Fox, I have to say. They're putting out a decent chunk of kills and quite a bit of damage with the smokes as well in that round. Of course, at the end, Sky's peeking around, finding 2 free kills basically at the end of it. There was not much to be done by DarkZero, so that was their contingency plan is, hey, let's go for the attack, but Reciprocity have to go now for the top floor in the Kids dorms, and this is going to be a complicated one.
I'm a little bit critical of DarkZero running the Jackal on the Laundry supply room site twice in a row, especially given that DarkZero is one of the few teams that runs a Capitao in high numbers. You run a Capitao there, you know that Fox A is going to be a hindrance. 2 rounds on Laundry Supply Room, you failed to be able to put pressure on that closet and be able to flush people out. That mirror window, enabling Fox A to play as aggressively as he did. He did work with the SMG-11. He did work with the Toxic Canisters. He did work with the Impact Nades, for crying out loud. And there's nothing that we saw from DarkZero that was able to punish Fox A's aggressiveness. There was nothing that could hold Fox A down and put him in a position where he couldn't have a stranglehold on that site. You run a Capitao, you run any operator with frag grenades, because there has been no Jaeger for Reciprocity's side of things, and that player in the closet, they're gone. So once again, as we were critical of Reciprocity's attacking lineup, I think you can look at DarkZero and say the same thing. There needed to be more properly applicable utility in the form of a Capitao or a frag grenade operator, or maybe even a Zofia, to try to keep Fox A at bay.
Yeah, I am very surprised that the Capitao wasn't there, because we always talk about it. It's like, what's the biggest thing with Capitao? You can direct your smokes, and what did I say last night? Smoke your opponents, don't smoke yourself. When you smoke yourself, you are not the one that's able to see on the other side. When you smoke your opponents, you have a much wider line of sight that you can use to your advantage.
Right.
So Laxing's just going to sit up here, close up by the bunk. I'm not sure if the wall has been opened just yet. walk-in closet from master bedroom, but we're going to try to make their lives a bit difficult.
Do you notice something here?
A lot of destruction on the floor.
A lot of destruction on the floor, but more than that, Reciprocity has 4 defenders, either on site or within striking distance.
Exactly.
They have realized that both times that they defended dorms, having too many bodies downstairs meant that you negated some part of the site, and DZ were able to just waltz right in and take control. I like that Reciprocity has learned from their mistake here, and they've got more bodies shoring up their defense in the actual walls of this site.
All right. See if DarkZero can actually play against this. There's more goo mines being thrown in by Skies. Try and slow things down for later on. And unfortunately, the Evil Eye will fall at the other end of the hallway. Skies will have to vault out of Generator. You hear the EMP going off. 50 seconds on the clock. A very good from Reciprocity here to basically draw the time away from DarkZero. This attack gets really complicated the less time you have to execute, especially with so many bodies on the site, as you astutely mentioned.
And 30 seconds to go, you're being choked off to try to get into Generator. There's been no pressure whatsoever from DarkZero onto White Stairs, at least for the time being, unless somebody's lurking down below. And Skies will get exceedingly aggressive right into Hot and Cold's crosshairs. Not the best outcome for Reciprocity. Laxing is there, takes out Mint. Plant going down. Jarvis eliminating Foxay. Mark trying to do work on these yellow stairs, but cannot find anything. Retro comes in, tags Pojo. He'll get Hot and Cold downed as well, but Jarvis finds his second kill. Diffuser will go down for the 3rd time here on Dorms. Laxing covering with Mark as well. Hot will try to give intel on the ground. They're going to try to stick the plant. One will fall off. There's Mark to take out Jarvis, but where's Nyx? He'll sprint in.
Oh,
he takes down Mark.
He's got it.
But Laxing will have plenty of time and a great clutch out of nowhere. He could even secure those 2 kills on the cousins. But no, he doesn't need it. Humble saying, I don't care, particularly to stat pad. I'm going to get this round over with, and onwards we go to the very final round between these 2 teams, Reciprocity fighting tooth and nail for that draw.
Oh man, DarkZero. They're being pushed to the edge here. Every single round. Reciprocity, and I mentioned it earlier on, sure, DarkZero are on the advantage with 4-1 back then, but it's pretty possible that just Reciprocity are more comfortable playing the defense, and that was indeed the case. And I really like how they changed their setup upstairs in the kids' dorms. Hey, we're not going to be able to deal with their flank watch. Let's just put more bodies on it. And indeed, it worked out very well. I have to question the vault in from Skies, but it's understandable. Hey, smoke came out. You're expecting the rush to just go and plant, but the attackers were not in sprint mode in that position, unfortunately for Skies, and it ended up dying. But I like the fact that both the Maestro and the Legion at the end, or at who was it there? The Valkyrie. The Maestro and the Valkyrie kind of just calmed down and realized, okay, we got enough time for this. We just need to know where opponents are and set up correctly for the crossfire angles. And the flick from Laxing, absolutely fantastic to finish off, I believe, the Jackal there, right on the wall.
I have to imagine that Nyx was being used in either flank watch or was designated to possibly try.
He was on the window.
He was on the window. So he either came in through the window or he changed and came in through White Stairs, because that's where he ended up getting downed by Laxing in what was essentially a glorified 1v1. It was technically a 2v1, but Hot and Cold was down, so he wasn't very effective. Obviously, he can be used as a drone. People don't understand what that means. When you're down, you can try and gather intel via sounds. You can crawl to an area where you can visibly see the defenders and be able to call that out, or the attackers, depending on what position you're playing on. But here's the issue for Reciprocity. They played that round perfectly. They still almost ended up losing it. That's how close it came. A key part of that was DarkZero's singular attack through Generator. There wasn't much pressure on kids, nor on the big window, which is where Nyx was. But Nyx was largely in a position where he couldn't do an awful lot, which is why we saw him rotate late in the post plant. But Reciprocity have now won on both Laundry and Dorms. That means that they have to go to one of the 2 sites here on Oregon that the defenders really hate to go to. And instead of going to Tower, it's going to be Kitchen. You've got utility available for Kitchen. You've got a Mirror and you've got a Maestro. That's going to aid you greatly. But there's no breach denial. A lot of teams won't bring breach denial. A lot of teams will open up those soft walls that live just by the kitchen that we're currently staring at. Reinforce 2 panels, and then wait and see if they get opened up.
Please tell me that it didn't hit the side. Oh, no.
That is a missed Ash charge
no.
from Nyx.
I mean, if he was trying to clear the chairs, he did a great job at that.
Yeah, that furniture in particular, to heck with it.
Yes.
But you used one of your breach rounds and you missed. It's a gamble here from Laxing, tries to take down Nyx. That R4C does pretty good damage, but you don't see anything done to the Valkyrie, who will get away scot-free as Nyx takes about 25% of his HP away thanks to Laxing's play.
Still, Hibana having an extra angle to look down into. It's going to be important to use. The C4 is going to come out from the Mira. But nobody answering on the other side, as this was nothing more than just bait. There is a Valkyrie camera as well set on the drone hole by the tower, so this should have been detected here by the defense earlier. Nyx will find a kill on Laxing, however. As more smokes being thrown in the opposite end, as the Hibana has gone in for the plant. He'll find 2 kills. No, the Mira unable to find the second. Fox is still inside of the showers. Skies will set up for rotation back into the kitchen, as Diffuser should get set here by Jarvis, but it's a 3 versus 4. Fox will come in from the back, as Skies will trade off 1 for 1. 2v3 still advantage for the attackers, and the suppressor on the Maestro is very interesting. It does give you no indicators, by the way, if you're on the opposite end of that Alda. All the marks going in for Skies. That's him, and Fox will try to retake. Jarvis, though, will find the kill on Fox, and leaving Skies all on his own. He's done work, but is it going to be enough here? He'll find 1 kill. Now down to 30 health. Peek around with his Bailiff, but too far away. He's hot and cold. And will finish him off. And GG, well played. DarkZero will gain the upper hand and get the victory secured. Putting on the board, that's 3 points. They really needed to put themselves on to prepare for the second half of the season.
And most importantly, no undefeated teams in North America.
Indeed.
So we will head to the break. We still have 3 more matches to play, even though this one in particular took every single round. We still have 3 more matches to go, but it doesn't matter because every single one of those participants already has a loss.
Yep.
Evil Geniuses suffered theirs yesterday at the hands of Reciprocity, and then Reciprocity suffering at the hands of DarkZero today. Just showing you the ebb and flow between the top 3 teams in North America, as there's almost a gulf that is being established between the top 3 teams and the remaining 5. Just goes to show you that even though, once again, DarkZero wins a 7-5, almost letting that win slip through their grasp, they battled back. Reciprocity still gave them a good fight, and Reciprocity were very ready for their match yesterday against Evil Geniuses. The top 3 teams in North America are all pretty even at the moment, especially with the way they played in Pro League.
You know, the oddity is that we're saying the top 3 teams, and Rogue is not one of them.
That is correct. And because DarkZero just beat Team Reciprocity,
they're
due
number
to
1.
points, DarkZero will claim number 1. Now, keep in mind, EG is 1 point back at this moment. So if EG prevails over Orglis later today, then EG can take sole ownership of first place with 18 points to DarkZero and Reciprocity 16.
Yep.
But what we can guarantee is that Reciprocity, right now, sitting in second place, an EG draw or an EG victory, depending on the way that the round differential works out, could end up putting Reciprocity, who started the day in first, out of the top 2. Turmoil right now.
I mean, EG beat DarkZero 7-5. They lost to Reciprocity.
So if Reciprocity and EG are tied, Reciprocity is in second place.
And
so EG must win today in order to get back in the top 2.
100%. So there's no way, even if EG tie and get that extra point, there will be a 3-way 16-16-16, but points are not everything.
Yep.
Because at that point, head-to-head will start to matter. And that's where DarkZero will be number 1, Reciprocity 2, and EG number 3. So, yeah, it might just continue the same way. So EG have the ability today, over any day, to really put up some extra points on the board. Just because of Orglis's internal turmoil, they can use that to their advantage and maneuver on and claim those 3 points as they put themselves on top of the board at the end of this play day. We'll remind you, this is the last play day of this half season. After this, we go to Invitational, then there's
We have a month or so break, and then we come back.
And patch notes, changes, possible operators introduced.
Well, Kaid and Nomad will be introduced.
Normally, yes.
Well, the evaluation period will end sometime around the end of the Invitational at the end of February. But just to visualize, before we throw up the interview here with DarkZero, just to visualize what we keep saying with, you need to start putting points on the board. Both DarkZero and Reciprocity, their first half is done. Out of a possible 21 points, these teams took 16. That means they only dropped 5 points.
Pretty good.
Now, if you were to translate that over to the second half, then they're going to finish that second half with 32 points. When you look at certain teams that currently are looking to try and make the playoffs, your Rogues, your Orglisses, your Accelerates, they're sitting at 7 points. Well, it becomes very difficult because there's only 21 points available in a half, which means that if these teams with 7, 6 points, etc., don't get a point today, then they could at most have 28 points by the end. Now, obviously, it's very unlikely that Reciprocity, EG, and DarkZero will have that same record. Look at DZ last season.
Yep.
DZ last season tore it up. They did exceptionally well. They were in the top 2 for almost every single week of Pro League last season, and then they fell off in their final 3 games. And teams like Rogue, teams like Mouse Sports, now known as Rise Nation, started to climb up those charts, and they were within striking distance. So there is the possibility that a lot of these teams, 4th through 8th, can still make it. But your window is closing very fast. And if a team like EG, Reciprocity, or DarkZero starts the season with 2, 3, 4 wins, that right there might be the death knell for your ability to make it to LAN. So that's what we've been saying all along with you need to win games early. You can't be leaving points on the table.
Yep.
Those matches where you are ahead, those 6-2s, those 6-3s that end up in draws against you, those will come back to haunt you.
Yeah, and they will definitely haunt teams like Space Station the second half of the season. You know, you're not just forced to win to try and get points. You're forced to win to break even on the amount of rounds that you have versus your opponents. It really does start to shape up after that second, third play day where you're like, okay, first couple play weeks, it all worked out okay, but you know what to change, what to fix. Well, after that, it's kind of cutting close.
So we have an interview with Nyx ready. And for my second time this season, I get to say hello to the DarkZero boys as they've not had the most interview opportunities. Oh, you are not Nyx.
Hello.
Hello. It's really laggy.
It's like real laggy. I don't know if it's the same for you.
I don't know. Now you look good. You forgot. It's fine. You forgot an apostrophe in it's, but that's okay. You won your match today, so.
Yep, that's all that matters.
That's all that matters. Today, you're prepping against Reciprocity. They're able to bring very utility-heavy lineups, but today they didn't really do that. They brought a lot of fragging lineups. How much of that do you think hurt their ability to be able to close the gap when they were on attack with you, and how much did you take advantage of that when you were on attack, knowing what they bring on defense?
Well, Reciprocity is like probably the most aggressive team in NA, and for good reason. You know, they have all crazy shots. But I think like Oregon's a map where it's really utility-based and just strat-heavy. So there's not really a lot of room to work around with the aggressive playstyle. So I think our utility playstyle worked very well against that.
Yeah, I think it did as well. And there were a number of times, especially when Reciprocity was defending the dorms upstairs, that I think your team very correctly read that they had very little presence on site, and you just took advantage of it. Now, how much of this information against Reciprocity did you have heading into the match, and how much of it was just stuff that you called on the fly based on what you saw?
Well, we had no info on their Oregon because I believe they haven't played it this season yet. But we knew obviously that they knew what we were going to do, so they're going to counter strat it. So we kind of changed our attacks and our defenses a little bit to counteract that. Once we saw that they only had 2 on site, we knew that we could just put our Ash underneath, mess around with them, and then we could plant for free.
Yeah. Now, your team in particular has really not played Oregon all that much. In fact, Bacon was the one on record who said that you hadn't played it in a number of seasons. It was an insta-ban for you last season. But you've now come towards it twice, and I believe if we recall correctly, we saw it a couple times in the qualifiers as well. Is this just you changing up map pools, or as a team trying to be more flexible on all 7 maps that are currently being used in Pro League?
Well, I think if you're a team in Pro League, you need to be, at least average at all the map league or Pro League. But bringing over, I used to be the best Oregon, so I think our Oregon's been looking strong. Like we had our Oregon win in the 3 years of Pro League that we played, and this.
It's It's really laggy again, by the way, as you put it. So you were cutting in and out there, but I'm sure we can try and piece together the message. Last question for you. You're now sitting atop North America. Last season, similar circumstances. You did very well, but you fell off in the second half, and in heartbreaking fashion, you failed to make it to Rio. As a team, I'm sure that's probably weighing on your mind. What are you going to do differently over the next month or so break to put yourselves in a position to guarantee that you continue riding the momentum that you're currently on?
Well, being in a team house, like, we have set schedules, so we'll never, like, be a lazy NA pro, as people call it. We have 2 coaches that could constantly make new strats for us. I think we'll always be prepared going into the next matches.
Well, perfect. Well, congratulations. Enjoy the break. It was wonderful seeing you through this first half of the season. Take care of yourselves. Anything to say before we end the interview?
Just wanted to thank all the fans and all my family back home. Appreciate you guys. Love you guys, and just ready to get the next season going.
Perfect. We'll see you after the break. Thank you so much.
I'm insane!
Have a good night, Inter.
Thanks.